In this episode, we're going to take a look at some of the more advanced tips and tricks and techniques for scanning negatives at home. We'll be using the VALOI system, but you can basically apply this to any other system as well. Tip number 0. Before we begin anything, always make sure to wear protective gloves. You can use this cotton gloves. You can also use these very cheap disposable rubber gloves. Basically, any kind of gloves will be better than touching the negatives with your bare hands. You don't want to leave fingerprints on your precious film. Always use gloves, okay? Secondly, you can use the VALOI system either vertically, like I do, or you can use it horizontally. To use it horizontally, you will probably have to reattach your advancer so that the button faces away from you. And another thing, if you put it horizontally, you see that the whole system tilts down, it's not leveled. To mitigate for this, VALOI will provide you an attachment for your camera, and you just screw it to the bottom, okay? And now you can use the system horizontally. So as said previously, some people like to use this system horizontally. I prefer to use it vertically. Now, for that purpose, I installed this little furniture pads to the bottom of the system, which make the whole thing land and sit much more gently on the table. It does probably remove some shaking that could be transferred from the base, but most of all, it just feels much better once you put it on the table. So you might want to do that too. VALOI system provides a very bright light indeed. At ISO 100 you'd be working with, at f8 you'd be working at 1/20th, 1/30th of a second. Although this system is very sturdy, very solid, some minor shaking can be introduced to the scanning process, so I recommend you to use wired or wireless release for your shutter. And in this case, I'd like to place it in my right hand, use my left hand for advancing the film, and it goes really fast. You can see just from frame to frame, shklots, 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 shklots. It's really fast and it's really solid for the best optimal results. Now this one is truly a game changer. Why don't you attach an external monitor to your camera? In my case, I have a 24-inch computer monitor. It doesn't have to be super great as long as it is, let's say, big. Using this kind of system with the external monitor will truly make you feel like a scanning boss. You have all of the setting, histogram, and you can see the image down to a grain. I cannot describe the comfort that arises from having a system like this. You just have to experience it yourself. But it does make scanning so much easier, so much more enjoyable. You will not go back. Another very useful purchase is Vlad's test target. These are slides, either 120 or 35mm format, that will help you determine the quality of your setup. It will help you monitor if your rings are well attached, but most importantly, it will help you determine the quality of the lens you're using. We can use this system for focusing the entire system, but overall we check how the lens performs. Now we're at the center, and we can move all the way to the corner and see and inspect the properties of the lens there. And we can see that at the corner we do have a little bit of chromatic aberration going on, but the lens remains incredibly sharp even at the tiniest amounts of detail. By using Vlad's test target, you can very finely tune the entire system, you can fine tune your lens, but most importantly, if you have many lenses in consideration. You don't know which one to buy, you don't know which one to use for negative or for film scanning. Using this test can determine which lens is the most suitable for this purpose, and it will enable an objective decision, not just by eyeballing or by feeling or by, intuitively, but you can truly objectively test your system before you commit to further scanning. Now, when scanning slide film, one of the things that you will notice is, compared to negative film, the enormous dynamic range that it requires from your camera. You can see we do have details in the shadows, we do have still details in the highlights. It's just that the sensor might not be adequate enough to capture all of these details. If we just brighten our image to f2, maybe use to focus it, we see we have a lot of details in the shadows, but then when we close the aperture, we see that we have details in the highlights as well. So it's very hard to capture everything in a single shot. So what we will do is we will go to bracketing mode, and we will use 3 images, +1, -1, and 0 in terms of exposure, and we will combine these 3 images later on in Lightroom to create an HDR image to really capture the whole wealth of detail in a slide film. So let's do that. And that's it. Let's go to Lightroom and check the results. So we're in Lightroom. First, we're gonna see the results of Vlad's test target, and then we'll move on to our bracketed HDR file. So this is the file from Sony. As you can see, I wasn't very careful with the rotation, but other than that, the center is super sharp, and so are the corners. The resolution is very, very good. So if we go to develop, and we enable the lens correction, we can remove that little bit of distortion that was present before. But other than that, very, very clear, very nice file, almost zero chromatic aberration, especially after the cleanup. Now, comparing that to Sony 850V Pro, this is the first attempt at 2400 DPI. We zoom into the center, we can already see that it's very, very unclear. Of course, we have no distortion. This is a flatbed scanner, but the image is just not there. Now, I tried to adjust the sliders on the film holder, and I got some sharper results, but still not quite there. So I repeated this same position with the 4800 DPI, and you can now clearly see that it just doesn't cut it. It's very, very blurry image, and it doesn't matter the corner or the center because it's a flatbed scanner, but you can see the hints of very greenish chromatic aberration, but most of all, just not a very sharp image at all. Even the dust and the hair, it's a bit blurry. Now, this is approximately the same resolution as Sony, and now we compare, and now you can see just how superior Sony is to a flatbed scanner. Sony with VALOI, it's much more sharp, absolutely perfect, as it should be, from corner, we're in corners now, to the very center of the image. Secondly, we're gonna take a look at our HDR bracketed exposure. So here is the first exposure, which is -1. Here we have a normal exposure, and here is the +1, which is exposed for the shadows. Normally we will just select this 3, right click, photo merge, HDR, and press merge. And now we can go ahead and edit it in Lightroom. Maybe we should crop it first so that the borders will not distract our histogram window. like so. And now we can observe our histogram and just, you know, remove a little bit of highlights, bring a little bit of shadows in, not too much, and so on. Adjust the color temperature, and so on. And basically we're like not really done, but getting there. Now, once we've edited a photo like this, we can also appreciate, firstly, again, the sharpness of the scan. We can basically inspect the image on the grain level. And secondly, we can appreciate the wealth of color information hidden, which is a complement to the light path and the very good CRI index. We have a lot of color information in this file, so if we just, I don't know, underexpose, overexpose, we see that color is actually there. And this is basically why we chose to scan slides with this method. Even when I was scanning slides, I was paying for my slides to get scanned in a lab. I always complained about highlights being clipped or blacks being clipped with slides, but here I can retain all the information. Especially bracketed exposure allows me to capture the entire wealth of richness of color information that was used to provided by the slide film, and now we can finally have that back. So this is it for this episode. I really hope you learned something new. I hope that inspired you to take analog photography more seriously, to scan your own negatives. And next time we'll be taking a very deep dive into the next step of this process, which is color reversal for negative film, especially color negative film. We have this orange base that needs to be removed, and then we have to reverse the inverted colors back to the positive image. So make sure you stick around for that, and till next time, have a good one.